Okay, guys, and we're back with another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest. I'm Seth from the Lonely Stoner podcast, and this is episode 32 of my side quest. Now, in this episode, it's going to be a bit different than normal. We're going to take a bit of a departure from the typical topics we talk about. We normally talk about MMA, boxing, wrestling, whatever. This one's going to be a bit more of a economics and business heavy episode, where we're going to kick it off straight with some news from the UK's biggest bank, HSBC, recently announcing that they have got a cost-cutting initiative that sees the bank to plan to reduce expenses by $1.5 billion by the end of 2026, focusing on an 8% reduction in global staff costs. Now, it's somewhat of a mixed message we're getting from HSBC, because typically when a business wants to cut costs, it's because they're not making much money and they can't spend the sort of money they used to be able to spend. But we're not really seeing that's the case in their financial performance, where HSBC reports a 6.6% increase in pre-tax profits for 2024, which, isn't conducive to we're making more money but we're cutting staff. It sort of speaks to maybe the global corporate sort of, how can I say, mentality, where it's growth for growth's sake, profit for profit's sake, and alongside that increase in pre-tax profits, they also announced a $2 billion share buyback program. I mean, all this news I'm seeing, they're cutting costs and buying back shares and making more profits. Damn, I might even buy some shares in HSBC after this. And they're also planning on increasing the CEO's wages as well. Wow. How could you imagine how angry you would be if you're working for HSBC and you hear that you're losing your job, but the CEO is getting a pay rise? I mean, that sums up corporate nature. That sums up the corporate world amazingly right there. That one statement there. HSBC is cutting costs, is cutting staff, but increasing the CEO's pay package. You couldn't make up. I mean, only in this world, only in this capitalist system would you see something as crazy as that, right? But if HSBC aren't losing money, why are they cutting staff? Well, it could be for a number of different reasons. I'm not an insider in HSBC. I don't work there. I did know someone who used to work. He doesn't work there anymore, but he worked in like risk and that sort of thing. So he wouldn't really know much about these sorts of high level corporate decisions. But in my opinion, there's a couple reasons why a company could do this. It can be, one, long-term cost efficiency, that they are preparing for long-term cost efficiency and preparing for future resiliency, where they want to sort of de-risk themselves, where if they can have their staff costs as low as possible, should there be an economic downturn, they're sort of able to weather that storm a bit better, rather than, flying by the seat of their own pants and just, having high costs, low margins, and, just risking it. They don't want to be that sort of business. They want to be a business that can be around for the long term by potentially planning for these future economic downturns. And to be honest, that actually might be a good indicator. When you're seeing a bank like HSBC cut staff, despite raising profits, that could be maybe a insight into their long-term thinking. And historically, when we see these sorts of things, you follow the money, you follow what the big banks are doing. If HSBC are cutting staff, that probably speaks to their sort of confidence in the economy. Now that I'm thinking about it and speaking these things through, it maybe does speak to their confidence in the economy. And maybe they're thinking, we're on the brink of a major potential economic collapses, so we're going to de-risk ourselves and sack these people. It could also be, like I spoke to before, the corporate nature, the growth for growth's sake, profit for profit's sake. It could be pressure from the shareholders that are pushing for higher efficiency, higher returns, and then this cost-cutting measure is just probably the easiest way to achieve higher returns. Of course, AI integration and automation could very likely be something like this as well. I imagine that the power that AI has now is probably actually in reality is replacing a lot of roles in a lot of human roles, particularly in stuff like customer service and compliance, where these things, they don't have, I mean, previously 10 years ago you'd have to have like a human interface. Now where the development of AI is happening, you probably don't even need to have that much human interaction now, where you can call up a robot, tell them your issue, they'll find out the issue, record it, and then pass it on to the right team. And that's customer service. And particularly where the cost of AI as well. I think Of course, there's the initial investment, but think about the life cycle of an AI software compared to a human employee, right? You've got a human employee that starts his job. He needs to get trained. He needs to he'll have sick leave during his tenure. He'll have holiday leave. He may, have personal complaints be made about him. No one's complaining that a robot's bullying them. A robot isn't off sick. A robot doesn't need time for training. You enter the prompt into the AI, and it knows everything more or less immediately. It may take a bit of refining, to be fair, but come on. Within half an hour, they'll know exactly what needs to be done, the ins and outs of it, the potential risk, potential downside, potential upside. They'll know it. Whereas a human, not only you're going to have all of that time, you're also going to be paying them throughout that time as well. Why would I pay a customer service professional 35k in the UK? I mean, in other countries it's probably more or less wherever. But say, why would I pay a customer service advisor 35k when I can use ChatGPT Plus for 30 quid a month, or ChatGPT Premium? I don't know what the name for the upgraded ChatGPT plan is, whatever. But it's like 30 quid a month, isn't it? So why would you pay, a person 35 grand a year when you could pay ChatGPT 400 quid a year rather, So there's that. And then also there's, like I said before, sort of shifting banking priorities. So let's say HSBC want to have less of a focus in the UK or USA or Europe. If they don't want to have a focus there, why would you employ so many people there? Cut it back, which is probably what they're doing. But interesting situation nonetheless, because HSBC is the UK's largest bank, and like I said, seeing these sorts of things, and in addition to them making more money but still cutting costs, I think maybe there's something a bit deeper going on, and this isn't a sort of decision that, I know HSBC, this isn't a sort of decision that they would have just made, willy-nilly, right? They would have seriously considered this, because when news like this comes out, the immediate reaction is, damn, what's going on with HSBC? Are they losing money? And when people start to think that, even though, like I said, we look at the financial performance, that's not the case, but even if people are thinking that could affect share price. So very interesting situation there. And we'll monitor it and see if they make any more moves. Maybe they'll cut more stuff. We also heard about their net zero emissions target is delayed. And, for net zero, this is just another one of these in fashion buzzwords, just like diversity and climate change and all this rubbish. It doesn't really mean anything. They're talking about, in theory, it's to reduce their carbon footprint, whatever. It's been delayed, 20 years because of what? I don't know. So the bank postponed its goal to achieve net zero from 2030 to 2050. Whatever. Who cares? We're more concerned with people losing their jobs than a bank saying they want to achieve net zero. But yeah, that'll be it from me. And I'm out. Peace.